So before I got all these things finished, I thought I'd take a few minutes and make a little video and show you how these sidewalk lights that Mom and I came up with, how they went together. This is the design we came up with. Looks like a 7. I think you can see them pretty well in the pictures if you zoom in on that Mom took and sent out. And we did our Pinterest research pretty carefully, and we liked this design. And we liked it because they're shorter, so that they didn't stand up real high. And to make them a little unique, we kind of put some different angles on them. And ours, we leaned back, so I put a 30-degree angle on the base so that they lean. It's like a 7 leaned back. And with one of the reasons we did that was so that when they're installed, the light kind of sprays out. With it leaned back, it kind of sprays the light out in a bigger pool. And we only needed 3 on each side of the steps then, and it would kind of fill in the whole sidewalk. And it's worked out really well. These are 12 volts, so the whole system is just 12 volts, low voltage. And there's a transformer that's in the garage, so all of the lights run. There's like a single thread of wire that runs all the way down the whole front of the house, and then these are tapped in with these special connectors to that wire along the way. And it's a really slick way to do it. This was the cell that I came up with. I drew this up in CAD in SketchUp and 3D printed these. And believe it or not, these each take about 6.5 hours to print, a little over 6.5. And one of the interesting things that I did for the first time with these is I used these brass inserts. And they're kind of a neat deal. These tiny little inserts. And a 3mm thread. And then they have like a little rib on them that helps hold them in the plastic. And then the way that this is actually one of the cells with none of the inserts or anything in it. And so you take these brass inserts and you set them down over the hole that you've left with so I 3D printed the holes in there. And then you take some people use a soldering iron. I found that to be like way too hot. You melted the plastic way too much. So what I wound up and did was took a screwdriver and then just heated it up with a torch. And then just take that torch and or the screwdriver, all heated up, set it down on that, and then just press that insert down into the plastic. And since those inserts are brass, they absorb the heat really quickly, so it takes just like a second or two. The only thing, it's a little bit fussy to get them nice and pushed straight in so that the screw goes down straight in. But after you did a few of them, a little practice, it worked out really well, and they hold really well, and they just can't be happier with how that worked out. So each one of these cells like this has 6. So I've got these 2 down in here that also get inserts, and then these 4. So this is sort of a finished one. So that hole, I've got some like really thin plexi that is super glued in place to cover the bottom of the bulb. And then, so these sockets I found on Amazon, of course. And the lights I did as well. And these are 4 watt, so they're equivalent of like a 30 to 40 watt incandescent bulb. And they're really interesting. They're like rubberized. They're armored. So it's like this really like soft rubbery coating that they put on them to help give them like weather resistance and everything. I mean, they're meant to be outside. So the sockets, they have like a particular profile on the back of them. Kind of see how that looks. And I intended to screw those in there, but once I started messing around, there just isn't enough surface area to really like even get a tiny screw in there and have it hold very well. So I wound up and I just used some super glue and super glued those in there, and that super glue holds really well with that 3D print. So those are super glued in there, and the bulb goes in there, and then this part of the socket just then screws down with some of those 3mm screws down in there, and it makes it nice and easy to pull out this whole the bulb piece here and the socket and everything if I need to. So I'm hoping in the future these won't take a whole lot of maintenance, but if they do, this whole thing can come out, or I can take just the just that part of it out and replace it or fix it or whatever. So yeah, that worked out really well. I was real happy with that. And then to make a reflector, I pulled out the old Fensidency Mountain Dew can. So that just gets cut and gets set down in here like so. So now we've got this reflector that's rounded. And I tried it both ways, and it's really actually it puts off a lot more light when you have that reflector in there. It works really nice. It comes out easy. And then there's just another piece of plexi that goes on top, seal up the whole cell. And then this cell is a unit. Then just take that, and then that gets set down in there. And get 4 or 5 millimeter screws that are threaded into the body there, and then that makes the completed part of the light. And then for the power coming in the back, got these grommets, and there's just a hole in the bottom back, so that just grommet gets set in there. And then this and they have this direct burial cable. So this is the cable that runs out in front, and I just use this pieces of it to connect to the lights. And this stuff can be buried right in the dirt with no protection. Basically, it's made for that. And then that just gets fished up down the pipe, and then gets wire nutted to the cell, and it's good to go. Then Tommy was talking about the concrete work, and so this is Mom did all these for me. So I got some tubs from work, and I think it's about 8-9 inches tall. And then we took these bolts, and then there's a plate down in there, and tied these bolts together on that plate with a couple of nuts, and then set that down in there. Mom casted these all up. These look great. It's too bad we got to bury them in the ground. They almost look too good. But so this gets buried up, buried right up into the dirt, and then the whole lamp itself gets bolted down to that. And then so that's the completed sidewalk light. So made 6 of them. I got 3 done. Got 3 to finish up here, and then get them all mounted out there and be all done with the lighting for the front and the landscaping. So super happy how they turned out. I think they'll be really cool looking out there and last for a really long time.